what you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you and less for you.
White.
Folks.
White.
Trash.
White supremacy.
White woman. White boy.
White.
Entitlement.
White.
Centering. White. Silence.
Is there a black person around here?
So there's a black person right here. Does he not exist?
They gon' say I'm racist, but they call everybody racist.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. And what's your name?
I'm Matt.
Matt. Hi, Matt.
Nice to meet you.
I just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
They gon' say you racist.
Am I Racist is a new controversial documentary/mockumentary film directed by Justin Folk and starring Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire. Now in this film, Matt plays a man that's on his own personal DEI journey, and DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And in this film, he plays a DEI expert. Well, actually, he goes and gets the certification online to become a DEI expert, and then goes to other experts in the field and asks them the question, am I racist? Now, earlier I said that this movie was a documentary/mockumentary, and it's mostly because I don't know what camp to throw this movie in, because there are moments that are acted out in this film, but there are also moments that are real life situations where Matt is actually talking to real life experts in the DEI field, or he's talking to people on the streets, or he's talking to people in these group sessions, and all of those are real people with their real thoughts on camera for the viewer. The movie structure and the fact that it leans so heavy on the comedy aspect really reminds me of Borat. Borat was a film where Sacha Baron Cohen posed as a guy from another country, came to America, and he would have these acted out moments, but those acted out moments would just serve as ways to get from one real life situation to another real life situation, and in those situations, he would poke fun at the people that represented certain issues, whether it was political issues or Christian issues. He would poke fun at those people, but not at the issues themselves, and I think that is the exact format that Matt Walsh goes for in this film, because in this movie, he goes at those people, not at the issues themselves. And I really like that. I thought that was done really well. So I completely understand where people are coming from when they say this movie is sort of like Borat, because this movie does have scripted out moments, but it has real life, raw, awkward moments with real people that are being filmed. And they all know they're being filmed. They just don't know why exactly. And that's what really gets them to come out of their shell and talk the way that they do and say the things that they do. Well, that's the best synopsis that I can give you for this film. If that sounds like an interesting concept to you and you want to go check out this movie, well, it is playing in theaters now, and I'm sure it'll be streaming within the next month or month and a half. And I don't know where it'll be streaming because it's a Daily Wire adjacent film. So will it exclusively stream on Daily Wire after this? Will there be a streaming service willing to pick this up? I don't know, but I do think you should try to check this one out. So if you're not a Daily Wire member like me, then maybe you should go try to see this one in theaters. But there you go. Otherwise, let's move on to my positives and some of my negatives. My first positive for this film has to be how funny it was. This was one of the funniest films I've seen in theaters in the last 5 to 10 years. Now, comedy has really taken a back seat lately. They try not to hurt anybody's feelings. They try not to press too hard on any topic. Some things are completely off limits now, whereas 10 plus years ago, nothing was off limits. You could make jokes about anything. Just look at a movie like The Hangover. That movie came out in 2009, and you couldn't make those same jokes today. There's so many jokes within that film that you just can't push past because of the way our culture is. And this movie looks at those standards and says, yeah, we're going to go past those. We're not going to worry about that. And it's not raunchy comedy in any way, but it is pushing the boundaries of what comedy is in theaters right now. And I think that's what helped make me like this movie so much, was because this movie made me laugh out loud, and not too many movies can do that these days. I mean, hell, the last movie in theaters that I saw that really pushed the boundaries of what you can say in comedies was called Strays, and I feel like they did that because they were using these dogs to tell their story, so the dogs could say anything. You can't get mad at a German Shepherd for what a German Shepherd says, and so that's why that comedy was able to work. But if those actors who voiced those dogs were saying those things on screen, that movie would have been canceled almost immediately. There's no way they could have done the raunchy comedy and said some of the things that they were able to say in today's Hollywood. So that movie was really funny, but again, they had to use dogs to get their point across in that film. Whereas again, in this movie, what I love about it is those raw, real situations, how awkward they can be, and how Matt just continues to push the envelope in what you can say and how you can make things funny. My next positive is actually the post-credit scene, and it kind of of builds on that comedy we were just talking about, where the post-credit scene is a callback from something very awkward earlier on in the movie, and the post-credit scene just absolutely goes for it, to the point where I was laughing out loud as I was leaving the theater, as I was walking out the front door of the theater building. Like, it was so funny, and I couldn't stop thinking about it all the way to my car. And my final positive for this film is that Matt does a great job proving the point, and I believe the point from Matt in this film is that there's so many people out there that will take the topic of race and manipulate it for their own personal gain. And he himself demonstrates this by becoming one of those people at the end of the film. So throughout the film, like I've said before, there are these people that he'll sit down with, these so-called experts in the field, and he'll sit down with them and he'll have to pay them these extreme amounts of money just to sit down with them. And by the end of the film, his character is actually doing that himself. He himself hosts a seminar and charges people to come in and hear about race and race relations and DEI. And by the end of it, some people had walked out of the classroom, but there were people willing to inflict harm on themselves in this class just to prove that they aren't racist because of what they've been told and the culture around the topic of race. So again, I think Matt does a great job of sending that point home. He has other points in the movie. Those didn't all work for me, but I did think that his main point of this film really worked, and it did send a great message. And that'll move on to my negatives, and I guess my first negative is more of a nitpick, and that's just that Matt Walsh isn't an actor, and I don't think he's ever claimed to be an actor. And so when you have these scenes, these transition scenes, I guess we'll call them, between real life situations, to me, they're not acted out very well by Matt. To me, they just don't work as much as the rest of the film. I say it's more of a nitpick because, again, I know he's not claiming to be an Oscar-worthy actor, but he is really good at those scenes with real life situations where he's sitting down with people, challenging them. I think he does a great job with that, but I do think that the acting portions, specifically some scenes in a diner or the Jussie Smollett scenes, those didn't work for me the way that I think they were intended to work for me. I wish there was more of the real life situations, but I do understand, just like in Borat, you do have to have the between scenes where the actor is acting. The difference here is that Matt Walsh just isn't an actor. My other negative for this film is that while Matt does a great job pointing out that there are grifters, there are people that would take advantage of the topic of race, manipulate it for their own personal gain, he does a great job pointing that out. The other point Matt is trying to make in this film is that there really isn't any sort of a racial problem in our country. And what I mean by that is that he has two different scenes. One scene here where he's in an all-white biker bar and he goes in there as this DEI expert and they all just don't care. They're just like, listen, man, we don't care. We don't look at the topic of race and think, oh, well, you're one color, so we're not going to be friends with you. And then he goes and sits down with a black man outside of an auto body shop, and that guy says, man, listen, I don't care about race. I don't care about any of that. I care about what's in the Bible, and I care about loving people. And I think that's great for those two select groups of people. But to say that those people represent the rest of America, I just think it's a little far-fetched. I'm not saying there is a problem in this country to the point where these so-called experts are saying that it is critical and things are overloaded and white people are the absolute worst. I don't think that it is like that, but there are people in everyday walks of life that are just genuinely not very nice people. There are people that do look at the color of someone's skin versus the content of their character. There are people out there like that, and Matt's point is that, well, but that is very minor, it's very few, and maybe that's true, but I think that should be called out as well. I don't think we should just say, well, since there's only 7,000 cases of racial violence in this country, we shouldn't really look into the rest of the problems. We should say, wait a minute, why do we still have those 7,000 cases? I don't think you can look at one side and say, well, there's just grifters out there. There's just people that are taking race and they're manipulating it for their own personal gain, so we don't really have a problem. It's like, well, wait a minute, but there are still people out there that are not good people. There are still people out there that legitimately are racist people, and I think that that should be addressed, and I don't think Matt addresses that as well as he could have or maybe even should have, because Matt's whole point in this movie is that it's so minor that it's not really a problem. But I think that if there is any sort of a racial problem, that's not minor in any way. Now, keep in mind, those are just my opinions. Some people are going to watch this movie and think Matt did a great job with both topics. Some people are going to watch this movie and think Matt did a horrible job with both topics. And both of those kinds of people may comment in the comment section and go back and forth with each other. Overall, I think it was a great movie. I think that this movie was very well done. I think Matt did a great job hammering home that there's an issue with the topic of race in this country, how there's people out there that will just manipulate it, and these people are pushed to the forefront because if you don't listen to them, you must be racist. And And I think he does a great job sort of exposing that. So would I recommend this film? Absolutely, I would recommend it. I think you should go check this movie out in theaters. I think you should watch this movie on streaming when it comes out. If you don't see it in theaters, I think it's worth watching because I think Matt makes some very good points throughout the film. But keep in mind, guys, those are just my opinions because that's my review for Am I Racist? Have you had a chance to see this film yet? If you have, let me know in the comment section down below what you think about it. When you're in the comment section, be respectful to everybody. There's really no point going down there and saying, I didn't watch this movie, but it was terrible. It's like, what? I had somebody do that on my YouTube short last week. They were like, I didn't watch it, but I know Matt Walsh is the worst, so this movie was bad. And I was like, well, you sound like an idiot. So at least come from a place of watching the film if you want to make comments about the film. That's all I ask. I know no one's going to listen, but I ask. That's all I got. And with all of that said, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. All right, guys, we got to the end of the Am I Racist review, and I did struggle with whether or not I wanted to make a full review for this. I was very busy the last week of September, so taking the time out to actually put my thoughts out there and make a review for this took some time, but I'm glad I did it. I'm glad it's done. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to check out other content on this channel, well, I've got all of my 2024 best and worst videos right there, and I've got all of my 2024 movie reviews right there.